On this episode of the Commute podcast, I talked to Nabeel Ahmed Khan. Nabeel is in India and he's the founding editor of etauto.com. It's part of the Economic Times, a pretty big publication in India. He writes a lot about the automotive industry. So I kind of thought I was going to be talking to a car guy. Turns out Nabeel is really tapped in and switched on to what's happening. And we talk about how the automotive industry is evolving into the mobility industry. We dig into a lot of different topics regarding business models, some of the differences in the industry in India and the United States. We talk about some trends that are going to be universal. And I asked Nabeel his vision for the future of the world. And it's actually a lot like mine, a world where people have better access to transportation than they do today. India is a country with a huge opportunity to improve individual access to reliable transportation. I was really happy to find somebody that was responsible for influencing millions of people and how they think about the automotive industry, and to see that he is really pro mobility. So it's a great conversation. Check it out. Nabeel Ahmed Khan from etauto.com.
Here's one for the broken road. That's the only one, you know. You better run out, truth or dare. Get me out, take me anywhere but here.
We're going to be talking about the automotive industry, how it's evolving into the mobility industry, and what COVID-19 is doing to impact that shift. Tonight, I'm joined by Nabeel Ahmed Khan, and he is the founding editor at etauto.com with the Economic Times in India. Nabeel, thanks for joining us tonight on the Commute podcast.
Thank you so much, Ryan. It's a great pleasure joining you here. It's been more than a decade I have been working in automobile space, and especially now I cannot call it automobile. It's no more hardware. It's a mix of everything. It's a mobility space where I'm working in, and it's lovely talking to you. I'll be happy to answer all questions that you have about India, how the mobility pattern is moving, how the automobile is changing in the country right now.
So before COVID-19, what was the market in India like for individuals buying cars? And, from a commuting perspective, how many people are commuting in their own personal vehicle?
Very good question. We have about 21 cars on every 1,000 people we had in the pre-COVID times. And we reached a peak of 3.4 million units of domestic sales. That was the peak. That has come down to about 3 million now already before COVID, because we had not great economy. Our economy was on a downside. But after COVID, it has further gone down. We are still, in terms of passenger vehicle in the last 3-4 years, we have ramped up very fast. We have seen the recovery, but that's because of especially because of the, what do we say? Because of the festive period where people tend to buy more than the usual month. So October, November is a good month, or even September was a good month in terms of recovery. We have recovered almost 100% in terms of passenger vehicle to the pre-COVID era. But already pre-COVID time, we did not have great sales because of the slowing economy. And the economy had an impact because of the new goods and service taxes that were announced. Then demonetization happened. That also impacted the rural economy and urban economy alike. That impact continued. That's how this demand for the automobile was already shrinking. And after that, on the top of that, we have this COVID crisis that has further kept the market on the low side. For the first 2 months, we had very less sales. Probably for 1 month in March, we had almost zero sales. For the first time in the history of Indian automobile sales, we had zero production, zero sales for 1 month. That was because of the COVID. And then we quickly, bounced back. The recovery has been better than expected, but the volume was already very less in the previous year. So you had a low base. Going forward, we have to see how does it transpire in the coming months after January, February. That will uh, show us the real shape of automobile industry.
Are you seeing any increase in car buying due to people's interest in not using shared transportation options?
Very good question. Of course, there is a massive drop in terms of passenger vehicle or cars being bought by fleet owners or shared mobility providers. So there has been drop of almost 70% if you talk about last 3 months, 3, 4 months. So a lot of people who were using all this shared mobility like Uber, Ola kind of thing, they have moved to the personal mobility solution. They are buying cars if they can afford. They are buying two-wheelers, or some people are even buying cycles to avoid any shared mobility. So if you look at not only on passenger vehicle, three-wheeler used to be one of the biggest mode of transportation when it comes to intercity mobility in India, which is bleeding now because schools are closed, people are no more going out in the market. So sheer going to shopping malls and all has become, for a long time, it has been like only on the need basis. It was no more like earlier people used to go for shopping as a medium of entertainment or just to hang out. That has stopped, but now people are slowly coming back to the market. I tell you that passenger segment of three-wheeler came down by 90%. So it's still only 10-15% of the pre-COVID times we have seen recovery in three-wheeler segment. Talking about two-wheeler, two-wheeler was also under huge pressure, especially rural area has been supporting a lot. They have better demand compared to urban area because huge job losses. People went back to their base in the rural market, and whatever savings they had, they tried investing in vehicles like motorcycles and all. But scooter sales was down because of low demand coming from urban. One interesting thing that is peculiar to India that has triggered demand in the rural market is that during weddings and all, people would invest huge money, and it would be huge gathering. That money has been saved because nowadays the weddings are happening with a limited number of people. Apparently, this is helping them. So some kind of buyers coming from that side also. So these are some of the trend that we notice. But of course, a huge number of people who were using Ola and Uber just for the sake of convenience, because here you have huge problem of parking, you have congestion, you do not have very smooth ride on the streets. To avoid that hassle, people used to, especially the young people who were working in the IT sector, etc. They used to, despite having capacity to own a vehicle, they would prefer by going in Uber or Ola. They have now moved. A good number of people have moved to personal mobility. I know many of them after COVID. Many of them called me and sought suggestions on what kind of vehicle they should buy in a particular price range and all. So that trend we have seen. Even those who do not have the capacity or dispensable income to buy, they are considering that they will try to buy that. That's how you will see there's a new trend of subscription model of vehicles has come up in India, though it is very marginal now, but we have seen that this business model has seen light of the day in the Indian market, which was not, very strong. Then additionally, we have seen used or pre-owned automobile market is doing very well. It is growing because those who cannot afford a new one, they are trying to buy a used one or pre-owned cars. Even cycle, a lot of people, if you look at India, 1/3 of the people commute on foot, and another 10% use bicycles, 16% travel by bus, while 18% use scooters or motorcycle. more people take auto rickshaw or taxis to work rather than private car. That's been the trend. But now the trend is changing because a lot of people are working from home. They don't need to commute on daily basis. So even operating cost of the vehicle come down. So people are trying to opt for their own personal mobility depending on their capacity to spend. They are buying two-wheeler, they're buying four-wheeler, used or new one. That's the change that we are seeing here.
You have a lot more segments of vehicle buying than we do here in the United States. We have very small amounts of motorcycle buying, which is more of an enthusiast segment than a daily commuter mode at all. And the four-wheel buying, car vehicle segment is actually kind of stayed strong through COVID. And automakers and dealers are reporting, record sales volume. I want to come back to the subscription model because I think that's a big part of the future of mobility around these mobility plans. But when it comes to consumer confidence in shared mobility services like Ola, what do you think COVID-19 is going to do to the long-term confidence in those types of services? And what do you think those types of mobility services need to do to regain that confidence and be what a consumer wants in the end of 2020?
Very pertinent question you have asked, Ran. I must appreciate this question. I have been talking about this for a long time, Ola and Uber. See, initially what happened, it's not just COVID. The people were losing trust in Ola and Uber because of a few reasons. Even those who were partner drivers, they are no more happy to be part of Ola or Uber kind of companies, because initially they were given huge incentives. They were making rupees 100,000 rupees a month or even more sometime,
Yep.
because of the incentives being offered. So they all were lured into this. And then what happened suddenly after that, they stopped giving those incentives and their income came down. So there was a lot of strikes in India by the drivers. And now those who are driving, if you talk to them, they are stuck in this system because they have taken their cars on EMI or
Yep.
on the loan, and they have to earn those EMI to pay off the loans. That's how they are, and they are hardly making now 20,000, 25,000 rupees a month. So that's the kind of a drop in terms of, and that's when the drivers are not happy, then the customer experience certainly go for a toss. So what happens if they see some request coming up or booking coming up which doesn't suit them or they do not like, they will simply cancel it and you will struggle on the road that way. Last I used Ola Uber initially, but now I don't use. I go for the traditional services, though they were a bit on the higher price side. Now with the price hike and kind of arrangement with Ola Uber, almost the cost also comes similar. These guys don't really bother about the quality of the vehicle. I sat in a car which was completely not worthy of coming on the road. They were driving for long time. It has
Mm-hmm.
noise, it has a lot of you can say suspension was not proper. I puked while being in the car just after traveling for 10 12 kilometers. So there's no upkeep of those vehicles. So I would rather go for the traditional one that I knew, though it is a bit costly. I will hire them, and there's certainty. If suppose I have to go to airport and catch a flight, I would rather go for that. Now after COVID, what happened that even those who were using this or stock, despite all this shortcoming, there was advantage of convenience. You don't need to park. You just put it on the app and you take it and reach your destination. You can easily do A to B. But after COVID, there's a fear of infection and everything that has, brought down heavily the demand for these Ola and Uber. And slight increase we have seen in the last 1.5 months. But in long term, if shared mobility has to work, they will have to be more ethical. They will have to be more focused in customer service. They should know the quality of vehicles they are deploying. They should not try to trap the drivers, but rather look forward to a sustainable and long-term happy relationship with the partners. That's very important.
I'm glad you said the word ethical. I think that's going to be very, very important in the next evolution of mobility. And I, I don't want to fault the companies really for the evolution of driver behavior. They've never done this before. And I don't find that often it's malicious intent that ends up with a bad situation. It's lots of small incremental, we had to do this, that ends up putting the drivers in a really bad situation. I think it's the flaw of the on-demand model of shared mobility that causes all of these problems. So you have drivers that have gotten the loans on the vehicles. When they don't have enough work, they get caught holding the bag. The people that
So
are
what
using the
happened
service,
here,
go ahead.
here in India, what happened? These ride-hailing service providers promise the drivers that we will not deploy our own vehicles.
Okay.
But after some time, they started deploying their vehicles. So in a small geography, you have higher number of vehicles available. So automatically the demand and the business gets shrink. So that too is the other big, complaint of the drivers that they talk about. Secondly, the promise they were given, that was never said that it is temporary, the kind of incentive. It was seen by the drivers that it is going to be long term. When then the contract they sign, apparently none of these drivers have those contract papers. They don't know anything.
Yeah.
And they can change unilaterally anytime, and that's how the exploitation is happening. And you are trying, and consumer was given an option that it is very cheap, so you get lured by the cheapest stuff. You get because ultimately everybody wants to save the money. But these are not sustainable model. If you look at the e-commerce model, there also the bubble was created through discounts, and that never works. You want to achieve 90% market share, 80% market share in just a fluke. That doesn't happen. If you have robust, slow and steady growth, then probably you can build a relation with your customers, with your partners. Then only you can sustain for long term. In short term, you might come, boom, and go away. That could happen. That's what I see in this right now. If we continue to have these kind of models that you just give discounts, or you give higher pay to the driver, lure them and walk, can you sustain that? Ultimately your investors are going to ask for your profitability. If you look at the companies like Ola, they have diversified already. They got the funds. Now they are investing in electric vehicle and this and that, because they know that what they have done is that business model is not looking like sustainable.
Yeah.
That's the problem. So ethics is the center. If you are planning your business in an ethical manner, long term is going to survive.
So if you're ethical, that means you're taking care of your people. You're paying them a living wage. I think, what do you see? You mentioned that during COVID, fleet sales were down. Of course, right? Fleets weren't being used for a variety of reasons. At an ethical shared mobility model where the driver is earning a living wage, do you see them being able to utilize a shared fleet of vehicles that are owned by an organization? How do you see vehicle ownership in the future of this ethical, ride sharing and shared mobility market?
I think the market and the commuters are ready to adopt and accept shared mobility if it is provided in a better way. Despite all this, negatives, there are positives, huge positives, which is convenience. That comes on the top of the mind of the young population that is emerging, and they're not very keen on owning things. They are not
Yep.
they would rather have fun in life. They will go on a vacation, spend money on that.
Experiences.
Yeah.
That's a universal thing. The youth here are very much the same. It's all about experiences and not ownership.
So they are willing to opt for these subscription model or shared mobility. Subscription model is emerging, or people are opting because of the COVID right now.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that they do not have the kind of experience they want to have in their travel, because most of the people spend a lot of time on the street nowadays because of the traffic condition,
Yep.
because of the work related travel. So people want to have a nice car where they can sit, they can get entertainment, they can relax. It's not just a mobility solution, but a solution where you can have your little cozy space also.
Yeah.
That's how people are looking at. So if shared mobility is capable of giving all this kind of service, quality service, then I'm damn sure that this is going to take off in a big way in any part of the world, including India, because people want to be hassle free and they want to have comfortable travel on the street. So big burden of pressing the clutch brake in bumper to bumper traffic kind of situation in India. Of course, anybody want to skip that and then opt for that. That's how I see both subscription and shared mobility has a great share going forward.
Yeah, when you write about people loving to drive, they're not meaning that experience, right? And
Yeah.
even if they're getting a ride to work, they can still go drive a car on the track and have some fun with it if that's what they like.
Yes, they would probably go on a late night or early morning ride, or they will go off the city on a weekend drive. That's the fun they can have. They might have one car for personal use, which they can do it, but still for a daily commute, I think people have car. They kept it at home, and they used
Yeah.
to go in Ola or Uber kind of thing. But now, because of the COVID, the situation has changed, but it can again return. People might have one car at home for their own fun drive, but for daily commute, I think these two options are going to work.
So what kind of subscription models are you seeing? Are they the kind of car lease subscriptions where they're bundling the insurance, the maintenance, and the payment all in one, and you can get a different vehicle all the time?
So there's a different kind of models. Some are, like for 1 year you have to take that's leasing, or
Uh-huh.
even for more than a few years, or you can pay on monthly basis where maintenance and all taken care by OEMs, and they for the first subscription they'll give you a brand new car.
Interesting. Are you seeing any subscriptions that are multimodal yet?
Uh, I didn't get you. Multimodal means
Yeah. So all the subscriptions that I've seen are you're going to get a car and you can get cars, but you're only getting a car.
no, it's largely one car you get, and
Yep.
after you withdraw that car, then you might opt for another one, but you can't get in the same time, multiple cars. That's not so far.
So what I'm suggesting is that I think there's a very near future plan of subscriptions where somebody is getting fractional access to a car. They're getting a bus pass. They're getting a credits for Ola. They're getting scooter access. They might get a bike.
Okay.
And
Yeah, that's
Mo-
slightly coming up, but in a very small way still,
it's very
like
early.
very early now, but ultimately it is going to go like it will come down to even like a small cycle, you know.
Yes.
Starting,
Yes.
and some of these have shuttle services, bus shuttle also, but it's not completely integrated yet. But I
Yep.
see this in Europe and other part, evolving. But in India, it's just in the seeding phase. It's
Yeah.
just in the ideation phase, probably 1 or 2. It will take 1 or 2 years to see some really shape coming up in that direction. But I tell you one interesting thing also. People get the car, rent it. There's a startup that works in this space also. There are many startups, sorry. You bring the car, you drive yourself for a week and return that. You can
Yeah.
opt for again another car, and you drive for a week and give them back. So
What's your
that
big one? What's the big car sharing startup in India?
there are 2, 3. I don't want to name them.
Oh, okay.
There are 2, 3 that is working in this space. Some traditional one have also diversified into this business.
Yeah. So I had a Tesla Model S and I personally car shared it for 2 years, and it allowed me to drive a car for free, basically, at a time where I had no business driving that car. And that is one of the beauties of car sharing, is being able to drastically reduce the cost of your vehicle by having I think it was less than 20% of the time during a month, I would allow somebody else to be using the car, and it would more than cover the cost of insurance. But people are often hesitant to allow their car to be shared with somebody else. Like, I did it intentionally, so I don't have any emotion with the car.
Okay. So I tell you one interesting thing that you will probably not have in Europe or US, bike sharing model. So here you have bike sharing startups also working in this space, and a lot of people are opting. Before COVID, they used to offer bikes.
Uh-huh.
So you just, a rider comes and you sit as a pillion rider, and they will drop you from A to B. So this was growing very fast in India, in main big cities in India. So this is
So
another model where electric two-wheeler can play a big role going forward. That's another model that is unique to India probably.
So they're human powered bikes or e-bikes that have some second person on it that you can ride.
Yes, yes. So a commuter's bike they will have, and they'll drop you anywhere. They will pay. They will ask for some charges, and you pay and go. That's the so shared. So that's the shared mobility. That's every segment is moving. India is the biggest market when it comes to two-wheeler in terms of volume. We sell about 22 to 24 million units every year in India.
Wow.
That's and 30% of them are about 29-30% is a scooter. Rest are motorcycles, and most of them are commuters like 110cc, 120cc. So that's the market now, and there also shared mobility has penetrated.
So what do you see coming in regards to MicroTransit, vehicles that are 6 to maybe 20 passengers in size?
That's already shuttle, big, tempo traveler kind of thing that is there. But that may gain, may not, because people are not attracted much because they get a feeling of bus. And the bus is still not considered premium in India, because traditionally in India, the buses were very, if you have been to India, you will see the buses were not in great shape in earlier, but now it is improving. Things are improving. Going forward, India is exploring all kind of mobility solution, be it hyperloop. Metro is one of the biggest mode of communication right now. Buses are improving. Completely air conditioned buses are there on the street. So then you have two-wheeler, shared two-wheeler, and all that coming up. The biggest share was there's another interesting segment that is evolving in India that has penetrated heavily in the Indian market, is uh, you can say low cost electric powered three-wheelers. You can say that cost about $18,000 to $20,000. That is big way coming up. That's a lead acid powered three-wheeler that is being used for last mile connectivity by the people. So these are some of the trend. Then e-commerce has also induced some kind of trend that is I can tell you, like two-wheeler, electric two-wheeler delivery, boys
Uh-huh.
are using them. So that's another a form of mobility that is emerging. Then after GST, what happens that uh, there are taxes on crossing the state, so they are trying to create hub, and then small trucks, small
Mm-hmm.
pickups are being used to further distribute the things to the hubs, and then from there probably further small vehicles. So it's a multimodal, from big truck to small, and then further a vehicle that could go into the narrow lanes and deliver stuff. So that's another set of a mobility in terms of transportation, in terms of goods carrier is going to emerge. That's how we see. So in India, multimodal is going to be way forward, because for the highways you have different vehicle, for the intracity you have different vehicle, and for the local lanes and narrow lanes probably in the market, dense market or dense residential area, you will probably have a different mobility solution.
Yeah, it's almost easier to make this multimodal stuff work with packages because the packages don't have any feelings about their data being exchanged between companies and cities and all along the journey. I think we have to get the consumer comfortable. One, we have to change their perception of what transit is as we introduce MicroTransit, let them see it's different than what they think public transit might be, and also see that public transit is different than what they think it could be. Um, but also comfortable with the idea that the more data they're willing to share, the better the options are going to be for them. And I think if the multimodal vehicles, services, whether it's a connected vehicle or a service like Ola, if they have all the data interchanging between the different modes, then there's no reason that vehicles need to sit idle, and there's no reason that somebody should have a vehicle that they can't pay for, right? There's enough demand. It's just an imbalance in supply and demand that's causing a lot of heartburn in these new emerging industries.
Correct. Going forward, I think connected solution or the software, or you're talking about data, that is going to help in all the way, even starting from the way you design or develop a automobile product till the time you deliver it to the people, and how does it operate on the street. Everything is going to change. Even the aftermarket, the kind of insurance service provider, they will have a lot of help from these connected and data. The way you repair, the safety aspect will be improved. If you detect anything, any parts are worn out, if your car or vehicle have intra connectivity also, you monitor everything. So that's going to uh, make a big change in terms of mobility as a service, mobility solution manufacturing, or in all aspect I see. Because you look at the software use, that is increasing leaps and bounds. Millions and millions of lines of codings are going to be there, but at the same time, if there is a convenience, there's a positive, there's a threat also. If you look at the kind of attacks happens, if I'm not wrong, in US, on every every hour few cars are attacked. Even when they are parked at the workshops, I see that the cases of cyber attack on the vehicle. So that is another challenge coming up, but there are a lot of good opportunity that is going to be there. We are going to have much smoother, comfortable, or safer drive when it comes to connected, and we have the right access to data, and we know how to use this data, how to sort this data. That is going to be a big challenge going forward, because it's going to be a big data. It's not just simple data.
We could probably talk another hour just on the hacking risks around connected cars. Maybe you'll have to come back and we can just talk about that. But
Yes, yeah.
I think the connected car becomes the catalyst for so many things that can drive the shift from automotive industry into mobility. So I really enjoyed the conversation with you here today, and love hearing about your insights around mobility and what needs to happen around consumer confidence, building trust, making changes that consumers are going to want to see. And I don't think I heard anything in the conversation that was really about COVID. This is all things that were a reality before. They were, do I trust the individual I'm getting in a car with? Is that individual happy while providing the service? Is this sustainable? Is it good for cities?
So let me conclude with one last question. COVID has certainly accelerated these technology aspirations that we had, or the trend, that case trend, connected, autonomous, and safe and secure and environmental friendly vehicles. That has been accelerated. If you look at last 3 months, Tata Motors has sold over 1,000 units of electric vehicle, a small compact SUV. That's phenomenal. We never expected that that kind of number will turn around. So electrification has also moved in how fast-paced. Demand for healthcare related features have increased, and quickly car makers have started installing like air purifier kind of thing, or other health related kind of features that could ensure people to come. Especially one of the car makers have created a bubble, complete big bubble, where they put their car and they delivered, so that you feel that nobody touched the car, nobody went inside the car, and it's completely safe. So these kind of trends we have seen coming out, and I hope. But the safety security has been always of importance, but with COVID, the customers have become conscious, and happily the manufacturers and companies have responded in swift manner. That's the trend we are seeing. And with electrification coming up, I see the adaptability of this intelligent mobility or smart mobility is going to improve further and get adopted much faster than we expected. And I think COVID has pressed that pedal of fast adaptability of future mobility. That's what I'll say.
Well, I'm
Thank
ready
you
for
so
it. Let's make the change happen. Nabeel, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ryan.